Weren't you listening, goddammit?
No.
Why don't you ever listen?
I don't, because I'm a man.
Justin never listens to me.
Bro.
Silencing women.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Justin Rosniak story.
Mm.
Really?
All right. I think we have a podcast going now.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Hello.
Man, how will this shit get in the street?
We'll see.
We'll see. That's the subject of today's podcast, which is hello
Shit
and
in the
welcome
street.
to Well, There's Your Problem. It's a podcast about engineering disasters with slides. I'm Justin Rosniak. I'm the person who's talking right now. My pronouns are he and him. Okay, go.
I am Alice Caldwell-Kelly. I'm the person who's talking now. My pronouns are she and her. Yay, Liam.
Yay, Liam. Hi, I'm Liam Anderson. I'm the person who's talking right now, and my pronouns are yay and Liam.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Actually, they're he
Interesting.
and him,
That's
but
very
cool.
confusing. You got those
Neo-pronouns, baby.
neo-pronouns, yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Liam. Hi, everybody. My name's June Armstrong. My pronouns are she and her, and I guess I'm a third time. Well, there's your problem.
Yes,
Podcast
a
guest.
rarefied air.
Yes, that gets
Returning
you.
champion.
Yeah, returning 3-time champion for Philadelphia Fun Facts.
That gets you exclusive access to our Well, There's Your Problem lounge, which is better than the Trash Future lounge.
Yeah, we've got like flavored waters.
Is that
Mhm.
when I climb through your backyard? Like that's
yeah,
what that is.
yeah. Justin's backyard
actually.
is the Well, There's Your Problem
It's
lounge.
true.
I
actually,
can confirm.
I think twice now June has had to let me into my apartment after an unfortunate locked door incident.
Both times were also my fault. So
This is also true, yes.
yeah.
Every time you go out together, she just takes your keys and throws them into a storm drain.
Yes.
She's tricky like that, June is.
It's just hot girl shit.
What you see in front of you on the screen here are the remnants of a building. And one of these buildings was supposed to be demolished.
Well, it worked.
And
All
the
right,
other
episode
one was,
over. Everybody go home.
solved.
well, the other one was not supposed to be demolished.
You're telling me the fire department didn't just show up to watch because they thought it would be cool?
Oh, because they didn't pay the whatever fire protection
Like the
money
fire
like that family in
protection money.
Tennessee.
Yeah, Crassus's fire department has showed up to tear this building down for non-payment.
Yes. No, today we're going to talk about the 2013 Hoagie City building collapse and Salvation Army collapse in Philadelphia. And this is, it looks like a small little thing, but it was a big thing here in Philadelphia where we all live.
Yeah, well,
Including
we all live.
Alice.
Yeah,
Mhm,
yes,
that's
including
right.
Alice. We all live in one
The thing
big
about
house.
Philadelphia is that it is a small town of no more than 5,000 or 6,000 people.
Yes.
So
And as
news-
Philadelphia goes, so does the rest of the world.
Yeah, and news travels
Bellwether
fast.
of a nation. Suck in
Yeah.
Ohio.
Mm.
And paper of record, the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Oh, God.
A lot better than those provincial papers like the Times and the Post.
Mm.
But first, we have to do the goddamn news.
Nature
Okay.
is terrifying.
Dude,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nature is returning.
An elephant in India, an elephant killed a woman
Uh-huh.
and then returned to trample on her corpse at a funeral.
To which we say
After
solidarity
lifting
with the
her
elephant.
body, after lifting her body from the funeral pyre as the family performed last rites. The elephant was reported to have traveled 200 kilometers to do this.
Imagine how
125.
much you'd have to hate someone to walk 200 kilometers just to fuck up their funeral.
What did this woman do to this elephant?
Probably something unethical. I support critical support for the elephant in this time.
Yeah, I support
Yeah.
in
I
pretty
just-
much all man versus animal situations. I support animal.
Yeah, I root for
Yeah.
nature.
Mhm.
Yeah, I got to
Not
root for
sorry about
nature
it,
on this
really.
one.
Nature's a smart bet anyway. I mean, look
Mm.
what happened here.
I mean, how did the elephant know when the funeral would be? How did it know what a funeral was?
Elephant tip line.
What sort of network of informants did this elephant have?
Elephants are really smart. Elephants are one of those animals there's a lot of animals that are pretty smart, and elephants are one of them. I think an elephant is probably smarter than me on a bad day.
I'll take that. I'll take
yeah.
that bet.
And more willing to fuck up someone's funeral.
Wait, but yeah, to that point, Liam, I think Justin is less likely to remember the funeral and get over to the funeral. The elephant's definitely going to be there and definitely going to trample.
Good for the
I
elephant,
was
man.
about to say.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I'd
I
be
think
too
this
lazy.
is justice. This seems like justice.
How did the elephant kill this woman in the first place? By trampling her?
Yes.
But
And then
Okay.
did
And
it
then
again for good
raised
measure.
her up and did a forklift thing with the corpse.
just sort of pile
some sort of-
driving this
yeah,
woman's
pile
corpse.
driver, yeah. Oh my God, is that the elephant's music? The
Yeah,
big
they have
elephant.
a
drums.
folding chair.
Yeah. Just whacks you with
I don't
the
know.
trunk.
I don't know what this woman did to deserve it, but all I can say is that she probably did deserve it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Elephant exercising castle doctrine. You know.
Yeah. I think this would be stand your ground law.
Mm. Sort of trample your ground, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what can you say except critical support for elephant? We support elephant in all manners.
Yeah, we got to organize these elephants. You know,
Yes.
I think if we can make them into Naxalites, if we can make them into Marxists, then you know, future's
Oh,
looking
easy
very
peasy.
bright.
Problem
Yeah.
solved.
You can
Yeah,
cross
we
the
should.
Alps
They
and
already
take Rome.
understand theory because they're smarter than us. So, like,
Yeah, it's true.
That is true. I imagine I'm not as smart as the average elephant. Like, it's the same reason I don't eat octopus, right? Is that-
they got bigger brains than us. The elephants, I
Mm.
mean, not the octopus.
yeah. So we just got to start dropping like copies of the Communist Manifesto onto elephant herds from drones, and then
Yes.
pretty soon,
Oh, of
you know,
course.
that's
Oh.
what a vanguard party is.
Well, that's the issue is that we don't have we don't speak elephant
Mm.
You,
because it's
you don't speak
too
elephant.
advanced of a language for us
I
to
speak elephant.
understand.
Mm.
So
Do you think we could
translating
train
the
like
manifesto into elephant may be difficult.
do you think we could get like one of those sentient neural networks that they're working on to talk to the
Ooh.
elephants?
Oh, we should
Man,
have
I
included
bet-
that in
there
the
you go.
goddamn news.
Yeah.
I guess it's more of a trash future bit, but
We'll get there.
When you say sentient neural networks, do you mean just a guy in the
Yeah.
Philippines?
it's a brain in the jar. It's
No,
a
a guy
brain
who
in the
programs
jar.
the computer to
No.
just say whatever you want it to say. The
It's-
elephant
A
can
guy
type into
who
it.
programs the computer to trick Google engineers into believing that it's sentient.
This mechanical Turk bit has gone too far.
Yeah.
Oh.
The mechanical Turk was an organic Turk.
You know, the Mechanical Turk needs a buddy comedy movie. That's always something I
It
felt
really does.
strongly.
Mhm.
Yeah. Give me the Safdie Brothers Mechanical Turk movie. That's my opinion.
Another hero from the past who ended up celebrating his last days in Philadelphia.
Mm.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he was a pervert.
I mean,
He's our
No.
best chess guy.
are
and
we
a
going to
sexual
cancel the Mechanical
deviant.
Turk? I guess so.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
are.
sure. Why
Yes, we
not?
are.
Yeah. Well, all we can say is critical support for elephant in
That's right.
seeking vengeance
That's right.
successfully.
Mm.
In other news,
It's happening. The RMT, the
Yay.
Rail Maritime and
Yeah.
Transport Union, has balloted for 3 days of strike action, which will absolutely
Hell yeah.
fuck up most passenger train service in the UK. 21st of June, 23rd of June, 25th of June, running a very reduced schedule, and a lot of the network, it's just trains aren't running at all. If you're curious as to why this is happening, it's because Network Rail, which administers like trackside and like signaling and stuff, they want to cut like 2,500 jobs because their budget is being cut.
yeah,
They want to cut like £2 billion worth of expenditure,
Jesus.
and so they want to like pass those savings onto you, the consumer, by eliminating a shitload of cleaning staff, maintenance staff, signaling staff, guards, and so on and so on and so on. It's obviously like on its face a huge safety issue, but also if you've been fucking cleaning stations through the pandemic, and not to mention that like at least one like London transport worker that we know of was basically murdered by a guy who like spat in her face. If your
Good
reward,
Lord.
if your
Yeah.
reward for that is to be laid off, then you know, of course your union should strike, and more power to them for doing it. If you're being subjected to like pay freezes and a cost of living crisis, if you're being forced to work extra hours, then of course your union should strike. I'm glad that the RMT is militant enough to strike.
Yes.
And of course, their reward is that they're getting monstered in the British press, who are, you know, tarring them all as communists, which is true but based.
Yes, that's good.
Putinists, which is like there's like three of them.
How's that logic?
That means the same thing to these people. Yeah.
No, I mean it's because like a couple of the more senior guys like went to Donbass in 2018 to talk about like anti-fascism in the context of Ukraine. It's bad.
Oh, like any of these people have ever cared.
I know.
Exactly.
It's so cynical. Yeah. That's part of it. And then like, of course, the other thing is, but train drivers get paid, you know, 55 grand a year and only have to work, you know, an hour a week or whatever the fuck it is.
Is it really just 55 grand? Like, that's not a huge, I mean, I know that's pounds, but I'm still like, oh, I get paid a lot more here. Right?
I think it genuinely is. I think that's like it's one of the last good union jobs going, and it pays not that much. But a lot of people, a lot of journalists are able to sell this as like a prince's wage, and it's like, okay, fine. Well, they're earning what market forces demand, right? And
that's what you wanted.
But like a basic apartment in Britain costs like the same as
infinity trillion pounds. Yeah. We're not talking about a you can own your own home sort of situation here. But also, what's so surprising about train drivers who are very well compensated relatively, like having solidarity with and withholding their labor on behalf of the people who clean the fucking platforms, who are not and are in the same union. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's based. And if the government doesn't negotiate, if Network Rail doesn't negotiate and come up with a better deal, then that's what's happening. And I hope they win.
Yeah. Industrial unionism. It's good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Welcome to the free market. This is what you wanted, you dumb assholes. I look forward to you being absorbed as the 51st state. An industrial union labor paradise.
Yeah, absolutely. Big Pennsylvania.
I think it would probably be good if we absorbed the United Kingdom.
It would be more honest, I suppose. Yeah,
it would make a lot of sense.
I got a special relationship for you right here.
Yeah, exactly. We could maybe we could rename it Airstrip 1.
Build a bunch of like our colleges. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that would be a good idea. I was thinking yesterday, it'd be a good idea to build a launch arcology somewhere. So Britain seems to be the place.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Yeah,
we're finally getting back into housing Twitter again, to which I can only answer: build stuff underground, dig a big hole, put it in the ground.
But you understand that engineers work out solutions to problems, don't you, Alice?
Look, that kid was like 19 and he had like 12 followers. Like, come on.
That's where the pipes is.
All right. That was.
Yeah, Ross, it's hard out here in these streets. You got to show no mercy, bud.
That's right.
That was the goddamn news. Okay. So in order to talk about this disaster, I think we need to talk about something. We need to slowly and carefully and painstakingly explain the surprisingly obvious.
Okay.
How does a brick building work?
Well, it's like a
Jenga puzzle.
It's like a hole in the ground, but upside down, but opposite
above,
from that.
Above ground. Yeah.
It's like building houses, but you put a bunch of bricks on top of each other, and then people live in there, and they start like web design businesses or whatever the fuck. Mm-hmm. They make scented candles, all of the shit that people do inside their buildings.
Yes. So your sort of your load bearing masonry structure, right, is you stack bricks on top of each other. You put mortar between the bricks, right, and then you add big wooden joists between the brick walls, and then you build a floor on that, right. Relatively simple, right, in concept. Obviously, there's stuff like staircases that interrupt the joists. There's complications in here.
Assume a perfectly spherical brick building.
Yes, brick buildings are always spherical. No, I think it's important to mention that the front of the building, what's considered the facade, and then the rear elevation are non-structural elements. They are they're curtain walls, so those are not connected to the joists. They are only connected to the two major vertical party walls that really hold the building up.
So
in conjunction with the joists.
Interesting.
Yeah, because your joists run parallel to the front of the building. There's nothing running perpendicular. You generally on an old-fashioned masonry building, at least something that's not extremely high, you have 3 withes of brick, right? So a withe is like one row of brick. So you'd have 1 withe, 2 withes, 3 withes, and then the courses are like how they're stacked vertically, right?
Okay.
And it's like this 3 bricks deep. Unless you're going up really high.
Or if you're not lucky and it's less than that.
Or it might be less than that, yeah. The joists butt into those the brick walls, they hold up the floors. And then on your side walls, if they're partition walls, you don't have anything interesting there. If they like face the street, you might have, some features like maybe you have a flat arch, maybe you have some curved arch openings, maybe you have some lintels, maybe you have some,
what do you need windows for? You got to recapture your original sort of feeling of living underground.
Linux on the desktop.
That's right. Yeah,
that's what I said.
It's more efficient.
Yeah, I know, but I can't play Warzone on Linux. I'm begging you, Activision.
You have different qualities of bricks. So like the outermost withe is going to be something called face brick. And that has like, it's better. It's better finished, right? Sometimes maybe it's glazed or something. Maybe it's a different color. Behind that, you have common brick, which is shit.
Again,
your common brick is a lot cheaper because it's not designed to be seen. It's designed just to hold stuff up. It doesn't have to hold up to the weather, right? It's not a luxury material, right? Which is why, you see all these, a trend recently has been like you have exposed brick in your house. And it's like, no, I don't want to see that. That's because it looks
terrible. Yeah.
Well, so there's all these other things that are probably better left for another day when we're talking about putting buildings up instead of taking buildings down. But the whole way these traditional brick buildings work is in a system, right? Exposed brick is exposed because it's supposed to have it's supposed to have 3 layers of plaster over it that act as a water permeable layer that's breathable. That lets things go in and out of the building, so you don't get these giant, areas where a bunch of water can collect, a bunch of mold can collect. The idea is that the whole thing kind of works, and when you take out part of that system and you have something like an exposed brick wall, which I agree with Justin is fucking disgusting. That shit stays on the outside of your building, and don't you fucking try to paint it either, because Justin and I are going to come to your house.
Yeah, don't. We'll come to your house and we'll stop you from painting it.
We'll unpaint
painting
your building.
Brick is also that causes big problems with brick. Because if you paint the exterior brick, it traps the water and gradually turns it into sort of a mush.
Right, but the important thing is to know that all these things really do work in concert with each other to keep the building up. And of course, you're dealing with all of the forces that we deal with every day of gravity, where everything's pulling down. Yes. Essentially, the thing that over time destroys a building, if you are not trying to pull it down, is just the force of weight, the force of time, and vibrations
entropy,
and gravity and entropy, which, of course, all of us.
But yeah, so you have like the life cycle of a brick building is determined by how you treat it, and people don't like to treat them very well. And
maintenance is for squares, Roz.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
a lot
and
of
the exposed brick,
yeah.
it looks so cool. It gives me a feeling of like authenticity and industrial design that really, I think, helps me with my web design business.
But yeah, so you're like your life cycle of a brick building is, they last for 100, 200, 300, 400 years until one owner decides to paint them and then they fall down in 50.
Yeah, no, I had to meet with a stonemason who does restorations of large 19th century, early 20th century buildings. He told me today there's not going to be that row houses. We're not going to have row houses in 80 years, the brick ones, because of all of the interventions that have been done over the last 50 by people who didn't know what they were doing.
Cool.
That sounds about right.
Every time you do one of these things, it's an intervention that accelerates the decline of the buildings, especially if you're not sensitive to the way that the thing is actually structured.
We had a joke on I think it was Vehicular Cycling, about how curbs are a lost technology and we can't build them anymore, but we're kind of doing that for brick houses. Yeah.
And, well, okay.
We're going to have to cede row house city to fucking Baltimore.
I really do get a sense of how you can be living in what is still technically the Roman Empire and be looking at like the ruins of some baths or whatever and just be like, yeah, we don't build those anymore because we tried and a bunch of them fell down.
Oh no. And I think if this story tells us anything, it's that, when you start to dig down and see who's actually running an operation or how something actually happens, it tends to be three toddlers in a trench coat worth of expertise, and this is just like even the art of demolishing a building, which you think would be pretty straightforward. The people who are actually left to do that work aren't necessarily the people who are best qualified to do that work, at least in this situation.
Another thing here is it's not like, your load-bearing masonry building is the best building imaginable, right? Because they're really hard to insulate. A lot of modern like ventilation, HVAC systems, they kind of work against the thermal mass strategy that we used to have.
Right.
So these are not like it's not like, a masonry building is the best building possible today, but it is possible to treat these buildings a lot better than we do.
Yeah, and I think that also what's really important, maybe now might be a good time to go to the next slide, but in a city like Philadelphia, this is what the housing stock looks like.
This is what the buildings look like. Got. These buildings are already here. You should learn to treat them properly.
So we have to take ourselves back to 2013 Philadelphia, this shining example of a city on the hill.
This is actually I forget what year this is, but this was after 2013. So one of your big things where you have attached brick buildings, you have something called the party wall, the partition wall, right? And that's the wall.
Is it not
between
for parties?
Two buildings.
I had heard it was for parties.
Yeah, business wall in the front, party wall on the sides.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's some good stuff about having attached buildings, right? You have fewer exposed walls. You have those walls weather doesn't affect them, right? The
only downside is that like the rate of drummers that your city produces is much lower because every time a kid starts learning to play the drums, their neighbors go and murder them.
I played the drums.
Yeah, and you got out alive, and it made you the fighter that you are today.
That's right. Also, my neighbors were in their high 90s, which I think helped.
Because these buildings are all attached, they're not losing heat to adjacent buildings because they're the same. They're all being heated. So you have lower energy requirements, right? One of the bad things is you have ownership issues, right? Because your party wall is 3 withes of brick deep.
I want to expose one of those withes for my web design business's aesthetics.
Well, either that
on my
or
side.
if you have an issue in the party wall, each property owner owns 1.5 bricks. The middle brick has divided ownership.
That's fun.
And you have stuff like chimneys, which is even more confusing, right? And another issue here is like, okay, if you live in a row house and a row house next to you gets demolished, all of a sudden you start having problems, right?
I see an illustration of this, the sort of gap tooth thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
the
Right.
gap tooth thing. I think we may have brought this up on a previous episode, but this is on
No, I
West.
just know a lot about gap
Yeah.
teeth from personal experience.
Oh, Alice.
Well, this also goes back to the thing about how all of the buildings work together as a system, right?
Right.
These rows are typically built, or I mean, these rows are put up all at the same time. They're put up from the bottom up as a huge row of houses, typically, or they're carefully inserted as a system. And part of that is that not face grade brick that's typically used on the interior of these walls.
This
So-
is an arcology. It's just a really small, sort of
Yes.
low one.
Yeah, and so if you start to disrupt the system, everything else starts to get deteriorated.
Sort
Yeah,
of
so-
row house arcology where the whole thing like erects 90 degrees like a Scud missile and gets launched that way.
Suck it, Baltimore. You guys see the sum of all fears? It's gonna be like that.
So this is 24th and Oxford. It's in
Hey,
North
I used
Philly.
to live there, buddy.
It's this whole row of houses here was bought by the Philadelphia Housing Authority as part of their Sharswood project, right? And most of these row houses were vacant, but they were all like mothballed, right? You know, they had plywood over the windows. They got, you know, they were in okay condition, not great, but okay.
Was this for Sharswood Tower that or is this a replacement for Sharswood Tower?
This is part of the replacement project. The original
right.
plan was they would renovate all these row houses.
Yes,
but one
I
of
remember
them,
that.
One of them you can see. I forget. I think it's this one here. It had been so far gone that it needed to be demolished, right? And then one of them was occupied, right? So this one had been so far gone it needed to be demolished, and they demolished it, and they did not properly shore up the party wall of the next one. A couple weeks went by. That one started falling in, so they had to demolish that one. A couple weeks went by. By the end of the summer,
Just
they
like
were all
chase the
gone.
thing down. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's some
you know,
good. That's some good PHA
that's
shit right
that's
there.
some good PHA shit right there. And then the corner store burned down, of course, at some point.
I remember.
And
that
then we get
corner
this-
store.
the-
Holy shit!
The beautiful scene of urban decay that we see before us here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Living in North Philly teaches you a lot about the world.
I gotta
that is what
say,
I have to
you
say
know,
to that.
one of the things I've always been like, kind of, you know, you look at like how we use resources in this city. We have like a vacant property demolition program, and it sort of accelerates the demolition of stuff by demolishing other stuff. I mean, you know,
Right.
yeah, some of you gotta think about stabilizing this stuff before you demolish it, because it's going to create more work for you in the future. Anyway,
Like PHA is ever given a shit about that.
oh my
Mm.
god, no, they don't give a shit about anything.
Sort of like treating gangrene with amputation before you've invented a tourniquet.
That
Yes,
is a very
exactly.
Yeah,
good way to put
That's
it.
a
Yeah.
really good. That's a really good analogy, because I'm thinking about. So the next couple slides are some photos that I took walking down the street, about a half a block from my house, not even a full block. There's this example of a demolished row house next to a dry cleaner and next to the row house that it was connected to. And it doesn't even matter, you know, the situation where PHA demolishes the row house and then all of the rest of them are left to decay. You know, this is an example where the demolition was in progress and is continuing to be in progress, because the contractors, it's apparent that they didn't know what they were doing. You can, I
Love
think
this
there's an
cynic.
Inquirer article about this, but they started to remove the floor joists, which keep the buildings, you know, kind of laterally supported on either
anchored?
side.
So to speak.
Well, what was that?
I said like anchored, so to speak.
Yeah, basically, you know, you think about so what you see there in terms of those vertical and kind of angled supports are things that they had to add back in after the fact. I think that Roz, if you go to the next slide. Yeah, so this is all bracing and stabilization that they've had to provide back into the building, because when they removed all of the joists and kept the basement and didn't fill in anything or do any kind of wall stabilization, that whole wall started to come down, and
Jeez.
The homeowners inside. This was all detailed in an Inquirer article that I didn't look at, but the homeowners inside noticed the cracks and realized that there was massive stabilization damage. So they had to, start a lawsuit to get this work done. And, so often the difference is a matter of days, like between something like this being salvageable and relatively easy to do and something that's just nearly impossible
totally
to do.
Fucked, yeah.
So I think it's really important to underscore that there's actually another example that I could have taken a picture of that's a quarter of the block down the street from me. This one's all the way halfway down the block. And I don't live in North Philadelphia. I live in an area that has multi-million-dollar houses, and knowing that this is kind of just
don't tell
something.
them that, June.
This is something that can
Cancelled.
happen. Yeah, no, I'm already canceled for it.
Yeah.
But this is the
And
kind
I heard
of
June
thing.
eats her own poops.
Liam,
Oh,
everyone eats their own poops. That's why
Yeah.
you're friends with them.
Yes, it's a
I don't
Alice,
know
you
how
had
to
that drop
respond.
about being a sexual deviant ready to go.
I
Oh,
refuse to
yeah, I
respond to
actually
the
do.
allegations of my haters. So that's
He's the
just
best
kind of
computer
how it
guy we've
goes.
got. He's also a sexual deviant.
Thank you.
Yes. So anyway, it takes a real
me
kind of,
talking to Justin about we're getting a third host for the podcast way back.
Thank
He's the
you.
best computer
Aw.
guy we've got. He's also
mean,
a sexual deviant.
You know what? Aw.
right. So it takes a real sicko to do something like this, but it happens more often than you think.
You also see here you got the face brick, you got the common brick. And you see the common brick is garbage. Shit, no one wants to look at that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Question.
When it's, yes.
How? Say I want to demolish a row house, right?
No.
And I
Don't-
okay.
You're not allowed.
Number one, don't do it.
Say I want to demolish a row house and I have a gun. If-
Okay. All
but
right.
I want
I'll
to
hear
be, but
you
I
out.
want to be responsible, right? And I want
Yes.
to demolish the row house in like the least worst way possible.
like humanely slaughtering a cow.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. if I want to put the veterinary
What-
captive bolt gun
What's
to
the
a row house.
halal way to demolish a row
well,
house?
yeah, exactly.
So-
You point the row house towards Mecca.
So I think there's a variety of ways to do it, and every situation is different. And I don't have any kind of stamps licenses, expertise, or training, but I have seen examples where what's essentially been done is a giant concrete support that stabilizes the rest of the row. You have to put in a massive piece of concrete engineering to hold up the houses.
That's pretty common in Baltimore. Here in Philly, what I've seen more often, if there's been like proper stabilization, is they tear down the house, but they leave some of the joists in place. So you just have these naked joists hanging in space between the two existing row houses on the
Exposed like some sort of joist whore.
Yeah.
Well, and again, that's if you're doing it the right way, and that's an intervention that essentially is a renovation of some kind at that point. I mean, it's a renovation of Theseus, but you still
You
have
got to
some
put
of the
something
original.
up in the Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you really do want to do that, and Justin, to your point, that stabilization, whatever it is has to be very substantial.
Yes.
It has to essentially pretend to be the building. So, and I think if in the third picture, if you just want to hit that real quick, this is just a view looking down into the basement that they didn't clear out, but you can see where those notches are in the kind of middle of the wall. Those are where the joists have been taken out of their pockets. And that's the sort of thing where if you don't have those stabilizing units in and you don't do anything to stabilize them, really bad problems can happen.
I always love scaffolding and OSHA planks. They're like, it always looks safe.
I know you do, buddy.
And they're always covered in some kind of masonry dirt.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah.
It's the best.
It's the best. It's literally the best we got.
You ever see this stuff and it's like 40 or 50 stories in the air? these people out there working construction, they still have bowls of steel, I gotta say.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So this is the 2400 block of Market Street.
21.
21, excuse me.
Looks great.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah,
this is
thank
back.
you.
This is in 2012.
Yeah.
These buildings are all still here. These ones are not, for reasons we'll get into. So Philadelphia had been declining in population for a pretty long time, right? From like, the 60s to like the early 2000s, right? I mean, Philadelphia in like the 90s looked like New York in the 70s. Right.
All the sort of historical factors that we all know about and have talked about before, but like on a slightly different time scale.
Well, we got a new one to introduce in a second.
Oh.
And you can't, once the population starts increasing in the early aughts, we're in a different building environment at this point, right? Which is traditional small brick buildings. You can't do that anymore. And
we have skyscrapers now. Thanks, Edmund Bacon, or not Edmund Bacon, I guess.
You have a different financing situation, right? Because no one's going to finance like a small building in Center City. They want like a small building at all, because they want a big building. They want a big apartment building. They want maybe a big parking lot. Maybe you want a big office building with big floor plates.
Stuff full of like .com companies and the people who work in those .com companies.
Bring your dog to work day, fucking ass, beer in the office, bullshit, nonsense, startups
have
that I hate.
Slide going down into the lobby.
You can slide right into your fucking 50% layoffs because your company just burns money.
But like your traditional parcel that's like 15 feet by 90 feet, that's no longer economically feasible. Right. That's something that, you could support like a small building with a couple of apartments. Most of them have like cross ventilation because you can't do like a huge building there. You wouldn't be able to fit a modern chain restaurant in there, but maybe you could fit like a small independent one in there. That stuff, you can't do that anymore. Right.
What are you complaining about? They got rid of the Chili's on 38th and they got rid of the Applebee's in Center City. What are you mad about?
Mad that everything is an LA Fitness.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. If you're trying to get a building financed, you want a big parcel of land, right? And that means you get a bigger building, you got bigger retail spaces, right?
Yeah.
And you only have one or two of them.
You can fill it with like ellipticals and treadmills.
Yeah, or you could put a Chipotle in there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I fucking
or a Target.
Yeah, you want smaller and shittier apartments, right? Or larger office floor plates, right? You can finance a big and dumb building, but it'd be very difficult to finance like a smaller building, right?
Right. And I think that in Philly, especially the way that this played out then and still now, is that most of the streetscape looked like what you see here in this image.
Yes.
A row of 19th century buildings, mostly intact, maybe a parking lot, maybe a mid-century something or other. Some kind of infill on the commercial corridors. This is a very common scene.
Right.
And so for all the reasons that Justin's talking about, this is really common in Philadelphia. This is aberrant in the development landscape for the rest of the United States, right? You're strode with the strip malls and the parking lots. Those are large floor plates for the reasons that the financing works well. So the drive to kind of acquire parcels in this format was really, really strong then. I think it's still probably pretty strong now.
That's why we have a demolition program. Yep. They want to combine all these parcels so they can sell them to a shitty guy who's going to build a shitty building.
Why, dude, we have a land bank ostensibly. Like,
yeah, the land bank has done almost nothing in the amount of time it's existed.
I thought if we had those progressive ideas on the table, then people would use them to their full extent, and we would have a New Jerusalem, right?
I think the land torturing a chip bag to death.
That is not me torturing a chip bag to death.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's me.
Because people always complain about the noise of one or more of us eating on these things. So I simply starve myself nowadays.
Liam, I'm not eating chips. I'm rolling a joint.
Oh.
What kind of joint you got?
It's the normal kind. So
I don't know anything
think,
about. I'm not a drug person. I don't know anything about weed.
Would you
That's
like
good.
to be?
No thanks. I know what my fucking prefrontal cortex is like. I'm not letting
Let's
anything
make
loose
it
on
worse.
don't mail Alice drugs.
Yeah, and don't mail them to the P.O. box either, please.
Don't mail drugs to the P.O. box.
This has been a message on behalf of the one federal law enforcement agency we kind of respect, the U.S. Postal Inspectors.
Yeah,
99% conviction rate at trial.
Wow.
So the
Send me a postal inspector windbreaker.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, send 2 actually.
Yeah.
So this is a 2012 article by Angus Safran, who's still the architecture critic at the Inquirer.
The
This is
Pulitzer Prize winning
Pulitzer
architecture
Prize
critic.
winning.
I think generally has good takes, but every time she's been featured on this podcast, it was a stinker of a take.
Everyone's,
we did the news one, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the Do Buildings Matter one.
Yeah.
No, I have a lot of respect for Angus Safran.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, something like this
She
happens
just
where
shits out something pretty ugly. Yeah.
Well,
You
you know,
gotta
okay.
write an article every week. I mean, come on, you're gonna come up. It's like doing a podcast, you know.
That's right. Yeah.
So I figured that this was just, this is instructive because this is an interview with the owner of these buildings taken about, 2 months before the permits are filed, and then 6 months before all of it, or 5 months before all this stuff starts to go down. But Safran is talking about, the articles or the her column is called Changing Skyline, and it's all about how the city is changing all around. And she's writing about the development and the construction. This article goes into a lot of detail about how the main character of our story, or one of them, Richard Basciano, is finally ready to divest these parcels and put something really important on them that'll serve as a gateway to Market Street West, and finally, create the city that we've all been hoping for and yearning for. And this is, Philadelphia had been coming off of population decline for 45 years. The whole landscape of this city was so markedly different. And I I think it is really important and really interesting just to start talking about the man himself and what was going on there. But there's a really telling piece in this Inquirer article that I just want to mention where Basciano is talking about acquiring all of the parcels on the block so it can be a complete redevelopment project. The only thing,
huge LA Fitness.
There's only 2 things standing in his way from building the biggest LA Fitness in the greater Philadelphia
Number 1,
area.
those pesky kids in their community center.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. The fire station.
The fire station.
We were talking about the fire
station.
fire safety earlier. Fire station's on this block. And number 2, those greedy folks at the Salvation Army, who own a tiny little corner building on the end.
This motherfucker is gonna hate the Salvation Army for all of the wrong reasons and none of the right ones, isn't he?
Yes. So
We do not endorse the opinions of the Salvation Army.
no, we do not.
No, we endorse the Utah Phillips song about the Salvation Army.
Wasn't there an instance where like the Salvation Army was actually used as an army to go break strikes?
Yes.
Not even surprised.
Wow. Yeah, they're great in this story. Just wait. But who's he?
Also,
but
they hate the gays.
they hate the gays.
Yes.
But they're not funny really here, except for there's like they all call themselves like major and like
they love
commander.
the weird pseudo military.
Yeah, absolutely.
got the
They love stealing
military
valor,
thing.
but like for evangelizing, which is
Yeah,
one of
I
the
mean,
worst
that's-
reasons
yeah.
why you can steal valor.
But imagine instead if you were stealing valor not as a war guy but as a boxer guy. Enter Richard
Yes.
Bastiano.
All right.
So, if you look him up, you'll mostly find obituaries and news articles about how back in the 1970s in Times Square, he owned all the porno theaters and the sex shops and the strip clubs that were in Times
Oh, yeah.
Square. Right as the
Okay.
1990s rolled around and all that real estate became insanely valuable, Bastiano sells it all and moves to Philadelphia.
Nice
where
guy.
It's a good idea.
He
Stop
starts
moving here.
he starts acquiring real estate in the next slide, the famous porno district from as featured in Trading Places.
The historic porno district.
Yeah. But
Wow, you can see we can see featured podcast landmark One Meridian Plaza back here.
Oh yeah.
You guys know that Weaker Than song One Great City? It's kind of like that.
That Winnipeg, yes.
Yeah.
Right. But Bastiano doesn't buy the Apollo. He actually buys the Forum.
The porno theater is really a sort of a lost platform to time, I think.
Oh yeah, no. This is the kind of queer community space that you just like. We just no longer have.
We
in
need a queer
2020s.
community space that's not based around drinking alcohol. Immediately rebuilds the porno theater.
Please step
rebuilds.
away from the lathe, Alice.
We need a queer community space where the floor is sticky.
Oh god. Oh god.
I'm the guy who wipes down the loads.
So this is the Forum. This is the former. This is the no longer extant but historic porno theater. It was the last one.
Looks great.
Yeah,
I gotta say.
I found these reviews online.
Oh yeah. This is a photograph taken
Yeah, you do,
inside the
Justin.
Forum. The seats, as Yo can see, are quite numerous. No one in his right mind would sit down in one of these seats, as they are beyond filthy. The cushions look as though they had been run over by 1,000 cars. So make that trucks and then dumped along the highway. They are beyond disgusting.
So it's just a bunch of guys standing up, jerking off in there. That's like worse, I feel.
Inside the dark canyon of the Forum, mostly homeless men and crack users hang out here. A dangerous place. Lost souls and misfits.
I don't like how it looks like the walls have also been blasted with like sort of shotgun velocity cum.
It's artistically applied to just look like cum. They did a really careful job. They got the
some
artisans
guys.
in.
They got some guys with some serious velocity in there. You know, you know when you're doing it in front of other people, you really gotta get it going. You know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Got to show off.
Plus,
yeah,
you're on crack as well. That's gonna like
Now this particular
Play the
parcel,
sexual deviant drop.
He's the best computer guy we've got. He's also a sexual deviant.
Yeah, I gotta call up the front desk at the Forum, get my computer guy in. This particular parcel, I believe, it's been demolished up to this building with the cornice here is still there. The rest of it,
floating through this fucking theater like hard space shipbreaker, having to like try to get all of these seats into the barge without touching any of them.
the rest of this block is now becoming, you know, one of those, you know, that new trend of like you do buildings that look like a messed up Jenga tower. They're putting one of those on there. It looks like shit.
I blame Turning Torso for everything that is like it, you know.
I like Turning Torso though.
Yeah, I do too.
That
But it's like
one's
saying
good,
I
but
like
then-
I like the Velvet Underground too. I don't like the fucking imposters.
Right. Yeah. No, it's only Jenga buildings now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all we need to talk about.
I see in the notes here it says this is part of a pattern that Bastiano learned from New York. Use the allure and power of homosexuality to attract the people who gentrify neighborhoods.
Yeah,
which
that's
I really
true.
like.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. 100% accurate. I mean, this is literally, he literally took the playbook from New York City and brought it to Market Street West, which is the same kind of like extremely downtown place, like the place where Inga Saffron is like, yeah, this is the gateway to Philadelphia's business district. And he was like, I'm going to make it jerk off parlors until we like sell it for $30 million or whatever. $150 million.
You can't, if you don't have the kind of gay people that you don't like, how are you going to attract the kind of gay people that you do like?
It's true.
Yes.
It's true.
This is
and
true.
then the Trader Joe's went up across the street. So, you know, the pattern was right on time.
And they don't even let you jerk off in there, I don't think.
Not anymore.
I don't understand how anyone goes there. Like the lines are too long. You know, you can't even shop in there because the entire goddamn store is one big line for the registers.
Just imagining we're still talking about the Forum. So, I think our story kind of starts with these two smaller buildings adjacent to the Hoagie City property. This is the book
Excuse me,
bin
the Hoagie City property?
Yeah.
Yes.
The Hoagie City site. We've got the Hoagie City site and the Salvation Army site, and to a less important extent, the Book Bin 2 and Les Gals.
Yes.
A hoagie is a sandwich?
Yes.
Yeah, a hoagie is a long meat and lettuce sandwich.
Okay, so it's a long meat and lettuce sandwich store?
Yeah.
Yes. That's the Hoagie City.
I see.
Where
Okay,
you get
so
a
I'm
hoagie.
sorry. Please continue.
How have we done 107 episodes and you don't know what a hoagie is?
Oh, I'm doing a sort of Socratic dialogue where I make you feel bad about your city's culture by asking you to explain it to me in normal terms.
All
You're
right.
from Glasgow, Scotland. Shut the hell up.
It's fine. It's been a minute since we've done a Glasgow disaster, and I'm trying to keep
what are
it
you gonna
that
do? You
way.
gonna throw a bottle of Buckfast in my head? You gonna beat me with Bucky? Is that your plan? Because
No.
it sucks.
The Hoagies and the disaster are only nominally related, just by name. They're not.
Okay.
The Hoagies themselves, at this location at least, we're pretty sure we're fine, right, Justin? Based on historical research we've been able to uncover.
So I don't know about the quality of Hoagie City while it was still Hoagie City. What I can say is that the reviews of Hoagie City after this incident, of the few Hoagie City locations remaining, are not good.
Oh, it's a chain. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. There's another weird thing about Philly where like a bunch of businesses are like, we have four locations and they're all like within 20 minutes driving distance of each other just here in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Well, you couldn't bring Hoagie City to Harrisburg because, you know, Philadelphia is the Hoagie City.
This is true. All right. I won't argue that.
I'm very into, by the way, how ornamented the Book Bin 2
The Book
erotic emporium building
it's
is.
such a good building.
It's really good. It's a really, really good building. It's all terracotta. I mean, it's very pretty. It was
What did it used to be? Do we know?
well, here it says Schiefer Furniture.
There's some speculation that it was like a music store. Roz, if you go to the next slide. Some of the terracotta work here, I think you were there when we were looking this up, right? It was like the Atlantic Terracotta Factory.
It's Atlantic Terracotta. Yeah, they went to New York City for the terracotta. They couldn't stay with the local boys at whatchamacallit.
Yeah, and it's got some vaguely musical motifs on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't use Armstrong Conkling terracotta.
Yeah,
No relation.
Armstrong Conkling. Yeah.
No relation. Right. So anyway, it's a nice building. It looks really good. It's all demolished now.
It's all demolished. Yeah. But didn't they salvage some of the terracotta? Or no?
I want to say that. So one of the things that comes out in this case is that there was salvage that was done. I don't remember about this, or if it was just that a salvage yard had written in that was where it was from, that they had a catalog. I forget.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah. So basically, Basquiano starts acquiring this entire row of parcels, right?
Yeah.
the empty lot, the parking garage, these two buildings, and
Lego and fucking the book bin too.
Yes,
and the Hoagie City complex. There's a parking lot.
Hoagie City complex.
Hoagie City complex. Yeah,
the sacred precinct of the Hoagie City complex.
Here's the building. Up with better names for it.
This is the same. Go back to the slides. You see this 4-story building here. Nice brick building, got a cornice on it. It's fine. That's the same building. They just added some panels on the outside. Right?
Yeah, the Grenfell solution. Gotcha.
Yeah, they're not even like insulating or anything. They're just panels, right?
No, they just make it look mid-century modern.
And right in front of it, you can see the trolley entrance here that goes to the 22nd Street trolley station. 22nd Street, right?
Yeah,
I don't remember that shit.
Yeah,
party platters, jumbo steaks, seafood, salad, ice cream.
Do not get the seafood. Can't advise that enough.
This is a review of the remaining Hoagie City location on Hunting Park Avenue, which is there are no hoagies served here.
Right. So for this set, right, he's just trying to keep it as a parking lot or set of parking structures until it can get redeveloped. So the building, even though there's other buildings on this block that he owns and there's the parking lot, the first set of buildings that are scheduled to set to go down from the demolition, he kind of works his way from from the inside or from the middle of the block to the outside of the block. Right. But I think that we're gonna start talking about the whole actual event, right?
Yes.
Right.
Because I see on the very end the Salvation Army thrift store there.
Yes. So this is another common thing on the commercial corridor, right? You've got the 1-story building that's the stand-in for whatever 3 to 5-story building used to be there that got knocked down or significantly reduced.
Yeah, sometimes it's just like the first story of like a 3 or 4-story building that they just cut off the top couple stories of the building, left the bottom floor. There was one big building like that. It was called Gerard Place. That was over by Reading Terminal, and that was, I want to say it was the Snellenberg's department store.
Oh yeah, that had the first 2 stories on it.
Yeah, they cut off like the top 7 stories and just left the first 2, and then they put low rent businesses in there. And then when they were demolishing it, as they were pulling off all the metal facade, you could see
sad.
all the old terracotta back there, and it was like,
it had been covered
used
up.
to be good here.
yeah,
They just covered it up because they wanted it to look like a fucking Waffle House. Like literally, that's like what it is. All of these buildings, are some flavor of that. But that means that they're in horrible states of their own disrepair, right?
Yes.
And so that's kind of the other side of the coin, is that they're the last vestiges or the kind of like first stages of a temporary building at this point. And so that's the other thing with the Salvation Army building, is that it's not in and of itself in good shape. Right. But none of the buildings on this block are in good shape because the porno guy is holding out until he's ready to flip the neighbor.
And they say porn isn't a danger to society.
Well, this is why they invented the internet, so you can watch pornography in the privacy of your own home.
That's true.
Rather than having to go
you
to
Google now, you Google big boobs, you get 2 trillion hits. That guy's out of business. I can stand up jerking off anywhere I want.
Thank you, Alice.
And this is what they took from us in
I love the
city
idea
of the
of
past,
like stopping at Hoagie City to get a hoagie and then making your way to the
taking my hoagie into the forum and getting 50 new diseases.
Just are you guys into meatballs too?
It's like indeterminate which diseases originated in which place.
Actually more into Italians.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All
right.
It's okay. You're very pretty, Jude. That's not the
Thank
problem.
you,
The problem is that you specifically, Jude, are patient 0 now from eating your hoagie at the Fuck Shack.
All right, look, it's you can let me. I'll eat
I
a
love
hoagie
you
wherever I
so
want.
much.
Hi, it's Justin. In post-production, this is the part of the podcast where my co-hosts make jokes on the subject of gentleman's relish for about 5 minutes straight, with no respite. If you do not wish to hear those jokes or they would be upsetting to you, please feel free to skip 5 minutes ahead, starting from now. All right, I got bad news. As the showrunner here, I have to use the restroom. I'll be right back.
Oh, well, you're just about to get back on track. Yeah, all right. Well, Roz is going to edit this out. So, June,
I got to get some water. I'll be right back too.
for fuck's sake.
Look, I'm sorry. You know this from last time. This is my favorite part of the show. The part where you two just do the banter. It's great. It's
yeah,
my
we
favorite.
can just hang out.
Yeah,
That's
we'll
just
fine.
hang out.
We definitely
We'll hang
won't
out
edit
outside
this out.
Outside of the forum is where we're
Mhm.
going to go. Got a
Yeah,
nice,
for sure.
got a nice meatball hoagie. Do you really not? Did you know what a hoagie was before?
I knew what a hoagie was.
I
was
thought
just,
you did. You
yeah.
know seemingly everything. So I was
mean,
genuinely
what
shocked.
we're gonna do, thank you, by the way, is we're gonna go into the forum and we're just gonna like stand in front and we're just gonna like turn back with a pair of like UV flashlights and just see what's going on.
What are you guys doing?
Hey, what's going on?
Hey,
This-
hands on your own work.
just sort of introducing some luminol spray into the equation
Stop
here.
fucking touching each other. You're only supposed to touch yourselves.
Man, if you genuinely, if you did like a luminol spray in the forum, I think you would blind yourself.
Yeah,
it would
you
be
would.
yeah.
Yeah, one of those
Like
laser,
standing on
like
the
one of those
surface of the
laser
sun.
one of those laser matrices, but they all get interrupted by just gallons of cum. Really,
Yeah, but because I don't think there's any uncummed upon surface there.
no, they have cum everywhere.
Like
Roz,
you could
if
have
you take
achieved the
this out,
same
I'll
effect
fight you.
by like immersing the whole room in cum, the same way that they did the Mary Rose in seawater.
Yeah,
It's a sort of slow sort of cum impregnation, if you
I wonder
like.
what the
periods.
effect of cum on surfaces is after like, and I'm not talking about like just like does it eat because it's salty.
Do you remember the
this has to be
jar?
studied.
We can't do this again.
I remember the jar, I would say, too well. But
Yeah, we just can't have this happen again.
I think it was a valid line of like structural mechanical engineering inquiry. To
Yep.
Mhm,
Thanks, Alice.
mhm. No, absolutely. I think we can investigate the effects of cum on different surfaces.
Yeah, that's
based
what
on
I'm
like
saying.
I'm back.
different like 4chan users.
You know what we need to do?
Gamer chair undersides.
You know the body graveyard? What's the
we need the
university
cum
that has that? We need the
graveyards.
cum graveyard. Yeah,
graveyard.
exactly. We need to buy a porno theater and like
This is actually a research porno theater.
yeah, we'll get a bunch of government money for it. It'll be great.
Yeah, we're paying you for your participation. We need you to come on as much stuff as possible.
That sounds
Oh,
like a
man.
great way to get like a wide variety of strange human mutants.
Wear gloves, buddy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, no one ever said science was pretty.
No. Oh, I will just mention at this point, I did have an ex who went in the forum. Shout out to Kylene, although we haven't talked. Hope you're doing all right. But yeah, she said it was fucking disgusting in there.
You don't say.
So I can only imagine how bad it actually was. But anyway, so we're ready to go through a long and
I wanna keep
excruciating
talking about
timeline.
cum
Are we
for another
ready to
like couple of
get
hours.
off
I mean,
that's
this
fine.
you
topic?
will continue to talk about cum most likely.
That's
Right.
true.
Just
Concrete.
on account of
Don't
this.
like to
Concrete units of masonry.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder.
Yes.
Building an enormous cum over the fucking
Load-bearing
reactor.
walls.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, that's funny.
But the
So-
concrete arch or the load-bearing walls?
No,
No,
I mean,
load-bearing walls is
load-bearing
funny.
walls is what was
That's
holding up the forum.
was good. Yeah.
They have to bear load. I mean, it's just
Right.
how it goes. We were just talking about that
I'm
with
the guy who
buildings.
bears the loads.
Yeah, the loads bear.
I am so sick of dropping.
All right, so I
I
guess
don't even
instead
think
of
mopping's gonna get you out of that jam, honestly.
Hi, it's Justin. So this is a commercial for the podcast that you're already listening to. People are annoyed by these, so let me get to the point. We have this thing called Patreon, right? The deal is you give us $2 a month, and we give you an extra episode once a month. Sometimes it's a little inconsistent, but it's $2. You get what you pay for. It also gets you our full back catalog of bonus episodes, so you can learn about exciting topics like guns, pickup trucks, or pickup trucks with guns on them. The money we raise through Patreon goes to making sure that the only ad you hear on this podcast is this one. Anyway, that's something to consider if you have $2 to spare each month. Join at patreon.com/WTYP pod. Do it if you want. Or don't. It's your decision, and we respect that. Back to the show.
So what we have on screen is a permit. It's a permit for building, but
yes.
But it's not a permit for building, it's a permit for unbuilding.
It's a demolition permit, yeah.
Yeah. So this is what the demolition permit looked like in Philadelphia at the time.
Yeah, if you want to fake one of these so you can demolish whatever you want,
Go ahead. We have an engineering stamp for it.
Yeah. Just showing up at City Hall with it being like, yeah, I've got a permit, and taking a sledgehammer to the front doors.
No, I have a permit.
So,
well, they did try and demolish City Hall, but they realized they didn't have enough money to do it.
Yeah, they couldn't do it. It's way too fucking big.
It would have bankrupted the city, right?
Yeah. Which
it wouldn't have been economically wise. Yeah, no, and that would have been so stupid.
They were doing it for traffic easing.
Yeah, no, they were gonna put a traffic circle around the City Hall tower and then get rid of the building part. It's dumb as shit.
That's hysterical.
So, do you guys want to talk about this or no?
I mean,
I just want to talk about cum.
You want to talk about cum instead?
So what does this have to do with cum?
Right. Yes. So to come and destroy a building in Philadelphia, first you have to go down to the basement of a place called the Municipal Services Building and talk to somebody there who may or may not be able to answer your question.
And regardless of whether or not they can answer the question, they hate you and they want you to know that they hate you.
It rocks so hard.
Dude, I used to work for the city and people would very rarely come to our office. And I worked in City Hall and be like, I have a question about this thing I'm supposed to pay. And I would just be like, kill yourself. You're gonna have to keep that.
Compared to the basement of Municipal Services, you had a sunny disposition and a determination.
That is a shithole.
I used
to have to do payroll down there, dude. It was fucking horrible.
I bet, down in the basement of MSB, there's all kinds of angry people. Because you have to stand in line for all these permits, right? Maybe you hire someone to stand in line for you.
From working underground
it's
for so long.
It's pretty common at this point to hire someone to stand in line for you rather than go do it personally. And that's where a huge amount of permits you have to go apply for them there. If you have to pay a water bill, number one, God help you. Number two, you got to go do it down there. That's the one advantage of renting in Philly is you don't have to deal with the water department
because it's such a incongruous mess that the landlord would rather just swallow it.
Also, the water is so cheap.
Yeah.
Standing in line for 18 hours to pay a $20 bill for the year.
Literally,
that's how PWD
we were just
works,
getting around to some certain services being pay online. when I worked there.
They've just heard of the internet down there.
It was
Created
Oh,
sort of a sort of Skaven situation in the basement here, and
you go down into the water department, and it's just a bunch of like ancient Roman guys building
with knives.
aqueducts.
Cannot emphasize that enough.
It's just hot molten down there, or hot molten lead down there. They got just big vats of it.
Greetings,
Yeah.
traveler.
You try to explain the internet to them, and they only understand Latin. They want payment in like gold coins.
Coins.
yeah, denarii, Aurelii.
Yeah. So, getting permits in Philly, it's a fun experience.
So
Don't
it
do
sucks
it.
like crazy, but you got to do it, especially if you're going to remove a building. But back in 2013, the permits just kind of looked like this. Even though you had to sit in line for 8 hours, it says building permit on it, even though the permit is for complete demolition of a 4-story building. It says the permit requires the following inspections: initialize, under slab/floor, pre-final /wallboard, framing /close-in/final. But since that was
Just do them in the wrong order. It's fine.
that was just in there. That was
Yeah.
that's just on the form, and it doesn't really apply to the demolition of a building.
One of the
What
really
else?
interesting things about like the permitting system is even to this day, if you go look up these permits online, which you can do now,
Oh
they'll
yeah,
say see attached plans. And then the plans are not attached.
Yeah, they
There's
love that shit,
no way
dude.
to actually look at see attached plans. That's all only like on paper, and you have to like go and talk to someone at the city to go see them. If
This
for some
doesn't
reason,
even say that. It just says
Oh, yeah,
this is
no.
what we have the permit to do. Demolish thing.
Mhm.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
It doesn't even say demolish. It says demo.
yeah, demo, demo thing.
No,
Yeah.
there's another thing in this where I don't know if it's common anymore, but back then, the estimated cost of the demolition, they wrote in $10,000, which presumably saves some permit fees.
Yes.
But the architect who was supervising the project got 4 bids for the work. They came in between $499,000 and $112,000. They went with the one that was for $112,000.
This architect is Plato Marinakos.
Yes.
Sounds very Greek.
Yeah, one Greek guy going down there to talk to all the ancient Romans.
Yes.
It
It's fine. He's
expedites
going to like
things.
tutor them on logic. It's
It's not the same,
exactly.
but it's kind of similar
it works.
vibe.
Cross compatibility. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Right.
was about to say he's in the Hellenistic era.
So the other thing is that after, like, the city undertakes a huge investigation after this collapse, and what they find says that the permits didn't require any details showing how the demolition was to proceed. Specific information such as diagrams, descriptions of work, safety procedures, number of personnel needed, and equipment to be used were also not required. So it's not even that yes, that they didn't really have like a firm plan for how that was going to be done, but the city wasn't looking for it.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of like one of the things about like city like permits and stuff is that it's like, the people who review and issue these permits, they're not
John Doherty in this case.
they're not not architects, they're not engineers,
They're just
not
guys.
and you sort of assume that if you've got a licensed contractor or architect or engineer, like you do like a quick sanity check on the plans if they're provided, and otherwise you just say, hey, this is probably fine. Especially if it's demolition, which this city is pretty lax about, I will say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen the buildings. Like nobody's fucking John Doherty, the plan examiner here, is not examining the porno too hard.
Yeah,
to be
he's-
like,
Oh, he is.
Yeah, it's like, what's the
That's
worst
problem.
thing? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? The building falls down. That's what it's
this
supposed
is
to
That's
do.
what it's supposed to
it's a
do.
porno
Yeah, exactly.
place. Yeah.
So, so the L&I inspector does go to visit the site on February 12th. This permit's filed on the 1st. He goes out there to inspect the proposed demolitions, and he puts up the notices of demolition on the windows. and distributes notices to them that the building's going to be demolished. He comes back, I guess, 10 or 12 days later to note that work hadn't started on any of the buildings, and that's just kind of how he leaves it for a while.
Yeah, he's at capacity at this point. It's fine.
And so, frankly, I forget how many people were actually working in this department at the time, but it wasn't a large number, and it certainly wasn't large enough to supervise the demolitions in the city.
And they all live in a basement. Right. Like they're all fucking dying from vitamin D deficiency.
Right, yeah. Exactly.
They're all in sort of they're all down in the basement and they're watching like images on the cave wall.
They're pointing at buildings and saying, "That's the demolition that's happening."
What going to the shadows in the cave porno theater?
Oh, that's the best part. So I think if we go to the next slide, basically, just to give you some sense of like the process that Philadelphia has, there weren't any further inspections on the site, no other looks at it from the inspector until there was a 311 complaint that was sent on May 6th.
3 months later.
Yeah. When was that last one? Yeah. 3 months later. Yeah, 3 months later. So, and I can't stress enough, these buildings, you can see City Hall from them.
Yeah.
Like they're literally right there.
They're right in front of a goddamn trolley station. I mean,
right. I mean,
you can see here, like you got the little demolition notice, right? And that's all you got. I having lived next to a building that was being demolished. The other thing, the city does send you a nice notice that says the building next to you will be demolished on or about some date, right? And when I got that notice, I also caught the notice for the building next door flying through the wind at me because it's just a piece of paper they put on the stoop.
Yeah. No, the building, if there was a demolition notice, it's like on a vacant lot, you're supposed to post that on like a piece of plywood, but if you don't have that, you just don't post it. And then also,
a contractor doesn't have a piece of plywood.
Just go into your inventory and craft something real quick.
Sorry, that was a figure of speech. That might be, but so during, somebody emails 311 and goes, "There's clearly it's being demolished in a manner that's unsafe."
Snitch.
Yeah, there's a lack of safety equipment for workers. There's no plan to prevent walls or facade materials from falling on pedestrians. They're just kind of knocking stuff out of the building. And again, this is in a really prominent area. So this is 3 months later, is kind of the first time that the inspector gets wind about it. And he what happens is that he just goes and the email that 311 auto generates that gets sent to him says that they don't have the notices up.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And so he goes to the buildings. He sees that the notices are up, and he says, "Okay, close this out. This ticket's closed." So
this
in the
like
meantime,
the bridge. Remember the bridge collapse in Pittsburgh, and the ticket was changed to closed.
Just a sort of mark as read.
Right.
I would have closed that ticket too. I would be like, no reason to keep this open if the bridge actually collapsed. That particular condition has evolved into a new condition.
Bridge, not.
Yeah.
So L&I's involvement is mostly a story of L&I wasn't there until they got a complaint, and then they showed up and they didn't really do anything. On the other side,
L&I's life, baby.
On the other side, we have the property owners who, as I mentioned in the 2012 article, Basciano says that Salvation Army is playing hardball, and that it's really unfortunate they won't sell to him because obviously he has the connections that he needs to get the government grants to redevelop this place into something really nice. Which the whole article is such nonsense, when you think about it that way. But
A significantly nicer porno theater.
yeah, exactly. We're gonna put a really
Forum
good.
2.
we're gonna build a LA Fitness, but with porn.
It's gonna be a porno theater, but they sell food.
Bet you wish you could be
Imagine
LA
like a-
Fitness.
Some kind of upscale porno theater, like an
Oh,
Alamo
God.
Draft House, but for porno.
But for nudie
This is
movies.
a step away from the lane. This is too close to reality.
Matter of time. Only
Yeah.
a matter of time.
So like the top
That could be our next
brass
live show.
Ooh, you open a porno theater?
This is
I
a-
always
this is
wanted
a-
to open Crazy Liam's Porn Emporium and Computer Parts Warehouse,
I think that would
but
be
I
a
was
great
never sure where I'd
idea.
get the funding for it.
You know,
You
I
open a
mean,
gastro porn.
He's the best computer guy we've got. He's also a sexual deviant.
Thank you.
There's that place in Kitty Hawk that does like porn and biscuits.
excuse me.
You mean Titty Hawk?
No, it's there's a porn and biscuits place in Kitty Hawk.
Yeah, I know.
North
but
Carolina.
Titty Hawk, bud.
Yeah,
Right
well,
there.
no, I heard the joke and I decided to disregard it.
Oh. Come on, man.
So, at
Back
a
to
place
the
where
porno.
they're
Yes.
back to where they're definitely not having sex at the Salvation Army.
Yes.
They basically, this back and forth starts to happen between the New York Development Corporation that Basquiano runs and the Salvation Army headquarters in New York City, where they're both emailing back and forth about this building. And but they do it in this way where every single communication just breaks down with the next one. So and I think this has a lot to do with it, with this history of trying to buy the building and accusing each other of being greedy or whatever. But when they get the email that's saying, "Hey, just so you know, it's February 4th. We sent our architect out to do a survey and prepare for the demolition, and he found that we're going to need to access your roof. Your roof is dangerous and unstable in these areas, and you should address it. Also, this chimney is going to come down."
Yes, right back here. That's one of the big issues.
Yeah. So the text of the report is on the slide, and it really is this, based on our field inspection and engineering judgment, it is our conclusion that the structural condition of the subject building is barely sound in an extreme state of neglect and disrepair. So I think that this is supposed to be a scary report to be like, hey, you guys should sell us your building so it'll be easier for us to knock everything down. But
Yes.
either way, the Salvation Army says like, hey, okay, cool. We need to talk to our lawyers about this. We want to make sure that we protect our investments. Like they put that in an email.
We'll get right on it. And
Yeah.
they're just kind of like shaking their heads to each other.
And
Well, I
then
mean,
the Salvation.
if you look at these conditions they mentioned, like, okay, number 1, 2, and 3 are all the same thing,
Mhm.
which is you need a new roof.
Right.
All right. Yeah, whatever. Number 4, repoint brick. I mean, it's a 1-story structure. That's not a big deal. Number 5, aluminum facing is missing sections. Again, not a huge deal.
Not really Hoagie City's concern or
Yeah,
Basquiano's
exactly.
concern,
And then what? Plywood facing is exposed, needs to be replaced. It's plywood. It's water damaged interior plaster. I can't see the interior. I don't know what was. Damage face brick. Damage no D there. Interesting along the sidewalk. But number 9, roof drain not connected. All right, again, that's a 30-minute job. None of these things seem to be like major issues, especially on a building of this size, right? I mean, replacing the roof, okay, that's a big issue, and that's the source of a lot of the other problems. But once you replace that roof, you'd be fine on this for 20, 30 years.
Right. The replacement of the roof is actually the solution to all the problems because you would do all of the flashing and the drainage and the other things too.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Once you
but
mobilize
regardless,
contractors or a job that big, you basically the whole thing's going to be done. And
But
again, it's
regardless-
a 1-story building. It's not a big job.
yeah,
Right.
and I think this is just as much like a FYI. we're going to need to access this wall to take this down the right way, and you need to talk to us about that. And like, if I can underscore one thing here, it's like, if you have a neighbor next to your property, even if you really don't like them and there's some kind of work that needs to be done that needs to involve them, you need to talk to them no matter what. You can't not do that.
What if I'm a small bean and I have anxiety?
Too fucking bad.
What if I literally have a mental health condition that prevents me from not demolishing my neighbor's
Write it down on a
house?
piece of paper.
I have a mental illness that requires me to take down brick walls.
The whole Salvation Army collectively is a small bean, except when dealing with unions or gay people.
Right.
Right. So then the email is like February 5th, and then they go MIA till like May 10th, right? So it's not really like clear. I assume that what's happening in this kind of interim time period is that everybody starts asking everybody else, when the hell is this work going to be finished, right? Mm-hmm. And a standoff that is just kind of at a no communication type of impasse with your neighbor about a demolition decision like this, like that's the kind of thing where I think on a like planning site or something like that, it doesn't seem like a big problem until it becomes one, because while all of this is happening, what comes out in like the kind of court documents after the fact is that right, there's the contractor who's not really qualified to do the job, and on top of this, Basciano is coming out to the job site every day to micromanage Griffin Campbell and anybody else who's there.
Oh, good.
And so
great, you have the porno king just looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, you have the 90-year-old boxer cosplay porno guy who's trying to tell like the two underpaid construction workers how to demolish a building, right? Like, and so on top of that, the one person who may be in like an actual realistic supervisory role or like knowledgeable place is the architect, who's not really paying attention to this one piece of it, because from his concern, all he has to do is get the approval from Salvation Army, and then the contractors can do it the right way. But what happens in the interim is this situation where the contractors start to do the demolition work and create massive problems while doing so.
Yeah, because there's an extent to which, if you're in a design professional position, there's you should to some extent trust your tradesmen, right? They generally know how to do a job, right? But when there's like a big structural problem like this, maybe you should. This is your job. This is where you have to intervene. You need to be on site, literally directing work, not driving by and taking pictures and making phone and text calls, which I think is what the architect did in this case. And I think that just in terms of the other kind of just weird breakdown things that sort of happened, like May 15th is the day when basically things don't start moving until they do, right? So on the two shorter buildings, like those really start to get demolished around May 6th through the 10th, and they're actually, like I mentioned, the first complaint comes in May 6th, which means that the work was being done probably around the beginning of May, where they start to demolish these buildings and start to kind of take them apart. Not Hoagie City, but the other two, right? And clearly whatever they're doing is crazy in one way, shape, or form, but it seems like one of the big parts of the plan was for them to recoup the costs of this demolition by salvaging and scrapping as many of the materials as they possibly could. Um,
oh, good. This sounds like the run up to a job well done.
It gets. Yeah.
Did we talk about Did we talk about how they came in $400,000 under everyone else's bids?
Right. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to cost about $500,000 to demolish a building like this. They quoted 112,000, and then on the demolition permit they list that it's going to cost $10,000. Like there's no the money is just, it's just not possible.
Right.
So the other thing that happens is that the city planning commission chair gets CC'd on one of these emails right before all of the communication breaks down.
It's
But-
sort of a covering your ass sort of thing.
Yeah, the email's
Yeah.
like, this nonsense must end before someone is seriously injured or worse. Those are headlines none of us want to see or read. And
It's a
He
good
gets
thing
these-
that it's a good thing that city planning is such a powerful and relevant
Oh, yeah, especially here.
office here in
Right.
Philly. Yeah. Oh yeah.
so
with the ability to keep up with all of your emails, no
With
less.
the
Right, of course.
ability
Well, no.
to do anything.
So he read this email, and then a couple minutes later, he sees another email coming in that somebody's like, "Hey, yeah, we'll handle it. Don't worry." And then he doesn't
Okay.
worry. And then he doesn't worry about it.
Yeah.
And so
Can't blame him.
that's kind of where all of the parties stop talking to each other, and all of the
Oh, good.
everything kind of goes to let's just call it a different
Mode.
color palette. Yeah.
Hmm.
Something like that. This is the only picture that I have of it, but by May 13th, the building already has the thing where like you can only see it on scans of government documents.
Yes.
And so what you see here is that the two smaller buildings were knocked down,
Yes.
and those only have like 20-foot joists in them, and so they're a little bit easier to kind of navigate the pieces of kind of moving them around, even if you're demolishing them in kind of an unsafe way. Everything's falling in on itself. There's nothing that's kind of actively in business that would preclude you from or cause you to have a problem. But
A
then
troubled
there's
city tries to move on with the loss of
Mhm.
legal.
right.
Although
But then there's
they've ripped the roof off Hokie City. You can see the light coming in through the windows.
right, but then
Right.
there's the tenacious Hokie City building, which causes its own problem because that's a double wide lot. So there's a line of structural support columns that's running through the center of that building, and the wooden joists are only about 18 feet wide, but they have, that's really a Jenga piece where these two joists are working together with the center piece to hold the whole building up. And what they start to do is remove all of the floors and start to remove the joists from the front of the building. What they should have done if they were doing it the right way. This is May 13th, and the building kind of stays in this stasis for a little bit. If they were doing it the right way, they would have done an engineering study. They would have erected scaffolding all around the building. They would have rented a boom lift, which would have cost them only $4,224.21. But they thought that would actually just be too expensive, so they didn't do that. They had an excavator on site that they used to demolish the building instead.
Jesus
Yes.
Christ.
Yeah, and the other thing is like, so the I guess the inspector finally sees that buildings are gone now, and so he comes back to the site on May 14th through 16th. He doesn't see any of those violations, like I said, with
because the things are up.
because the things are gone. And then
Yeah.
OSHA inspects the site on May 15th and also finds no violations, which I can only guess is because nobody let them in. Or perhaps the building wasn't far along, but this is what the building looked like. It already didn't have a roof. So, allegedly the building inspector specifically told the contractor that the demo would get done brick by brick. The contractor agrees to this, but we don't really have any official records of any of this stuff. And he takes his life shortly after this incident happens. So we'll never know.
Yeah.
So that's May 13th, and then in the following couple weeks, it looks like this is when that joist removal starts to happen. That really puts the building into a really precarious place. And this goes back to the whole kind of timeline or people breathing down each other's necks, because it's not really clear to me, and there's no real records of the actual strict timeline of kind of how things move, but by June 2nd, they're on to the exterior walls. Sometime between May 20th and June 2nd is when they do this joist removal, and then June 2nd, they start the actual exterior construction. Yeah, so I think if we go to the next slide,
Let's see if this video works.
this is a video from that Sunday, which is always a great day to be doing construction work.
This is
Right.
them demolishing the building.
So so one of the people is hosing the building down with water to prevent dust, and then you can see an excavator which is parked basically right in front of the Salvation Army, and the arm of that excavator is just kind of tearing big parts off the building.
Jesus fuck.
Just tearing
Have
big
they-
parts off the front
This
of
is
the
how I
building.
would do it.
Have they even closed off the street at
Nope.
all?
No.
Nope. And you can see the contractor is on the far side of the trolley entrance, spraying the
Yeah.
water across the trolley entrance onto the building.
Oh, so if you come
did
up out of
they-
that entrance.
Yeah, you're just getting hosed if you don't get a brick to your head.
That is my question. I'm not certain if the trolley entrance is closed or open.
Oh, it's probably open.
I know that the thrift store was open.
Yeah, the thrift store was open. The trolley entrance was definitely open, Justin.
I mean, I would have still used it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, because I'm stubborn.
It's not. The blue light isn't flashing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, just walk under the hose spray, it's fine.
right.
Yeah, it'd be
so,
nice and
so
refreshing.
yeah, no. So there it goes. The Hoagie City sign comes down,
No.
and you can
This
just
is
see.
worse than the fucking Saddam statue.
So you can see the excavator arm is because the subway station is right directly in front of it. They kind of can't get the excavator in there, and they know that, so they have to kind of do it off to the side, right? There was a safe demolition plan that was originally proposed back when Salvation Army and Basquiano were talking, but that never got finalized, and no access agreement was formalized for the roof. And so basically between June 2nd and June 5th, when the collapse happens, the contractors hire like a bunch of additional crew members to just come in and start demoing stuff. But because of the salvage plan, the joists were sold between $6 and $8 a piece, just so you know. These are massive frames of old growth timber, about 18 feet wide and 4 to 6 feet or 4 to 6 inches
We're talking.
tall.
We're talking like old growth timber. We're talking like 18 feet long, like $6
inches
$6?
deep. Yeah, $6 or $8. He was selling them
$8.
wholesale.
$8.
The completely intact ones were $8. The ones that they pulled out of the wreckage as they were destroying the buildings were only $6.
$8?
$8.
$8.
$8. And they didn't rent the.
Roz, how many dollars?
They didn't rent the other thing because it was going to be $4,200.
Jesus
They
fuck.
could have probably sold those for like 100 times that.
It's crazy. No, and you can't. And again, that kind of stuff is so hard to source.
$8.
$8. So yeah, everybody was complaining how unsafe the site was. Everybody who was there, like, had done demolition before, walked into this building, saw that there were a bunch of joists missing, and were like, no, I'm not doing any more of of this, but
You get a great deal of some joists, though.
yeah, but between the text from Marinakos and
give me all of those. Give me every single one of those.
Yeah,
I'll just put the building back up.
just keep them. Yeah, seriously, like so much. It's so much building material, and
This
it's
is
like
the cheapest building everyone has ever built.
yeah. So
$8 is probably what those joists cost when they were new.
yeah, seriously, it's unbelievable.
Not adjusted for inflation.
Yeah. And it's just like that just goes to show what the stakes actually were in this situation and how none of this should have happened. Right?
Very small amounts of money.
Very
Yes.
small amounts of money. And there are
Yeah.
hundreds of joists in this building. Like $8 a piece is in the grand scheme of things like, you know, moving a lot of them. The whole thing is just really sad. So anyway, over the night of June 4th is when a lot of additional work happens in the middle of the night with this extra crew. There's about 8 people there, and one of the worst details is just like one of the construction workers testifies in one of these reports that if all 8 of those people had just been focused on hand removing the wall that was connected to the Salvation Army, they could have gotten it down in time. But by the time the night comes up and they've spent all night on ladders on the roof of the Salvation Army building, there's still at least a story of wall remaining.
So instead of removing all of this wall, what they're doing is removing joists
They're
to
removing joists to
sell
sell
it
them,
minus
yeah.
infinity
For
profit.
$8.
So, if you go to the next slide.
How many joists are there?
Oh,
Many.
so
Probably hundreds.
Hundreds.
they're spaced about every 18 inches. And
Okay, so that's a couple Xboxes. All
and
right.
what they were able to remove was only the joists from the first 60 feet of the building or so.
Oh, pathetic. Rookie
From Market
numbers.
Street. Yeah, truly amateur behavior.
Yeah, do you want those $8 or not?
Right.
Yeah, I guess I do.
So 9:14 a.m.
Oh, no.
on the morning of June 5th, 2013, the Campbell texts Marinakos and says, "Hey, we got the wall down. Don't worry."
I feel like I should worry, boys.
Justin, you want to go next? Did you go to the?
Roz.
Did you fall asleep?
Justin.
Justin, do you want to take the next
Hold
one?
on a second. I have something for this.
Amogus.
Yeah. No.
I'm
I
too
didn't-
old to understand what that means. I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to wake him up.
Roz.
Amogus. Amogus.
I'm here. I just went to the kitchen to grab a beer and I came back.
Oh, do you want to read the next part of this thing?
Sure. At 9:14 a.m. on the morning
No, not
of June,
that part. The next part.
which is the next part.
the next paragraph.
Okay. Wednesday, June 5th, 2013, at approximately 10:41 a.m., while Sean Benshap was demolishing the eastern wall with a pry bar. Eastern wall is the one closest to the parking garage here.
Correct.
The eastern wall with a pry bar in the jaws of the excavator. The rear of the machine hit the western wall, which then partially collapsed onto the Salvation Army thrift store.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that was when everything hit. And
Basciano was on site and fled when the building collapsed.
Yeah, that was another great detail is that he was there. His wife drove him there every morning and he was on site. And he was on site when the building collapsed, and then he was gone as soon as the wreckage was being
Incredible.
picked through.
Discretion really being the better part of valor there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so like, you know, there's a video that we didn't include that's a SEPTA bus that drives by just as this thing is happening, and it's just it's just so scary, right? Like 1 minute everything's fine, and then the next minute everything is dust. and just this is such a tragedy that could and should have been averted, and none of it went right,
Because you're dumping like a story's worth of wall on top of the
A building
Salvation
that's in
Army
shit shape in the first place,
yeah.
right?
yeah, with
Right.
a fucked up roof.
So
yeah, and the
so
roof
this
is only
is
even if the roof was fine, all that masonry would have just gone.
it's
straight
way
through
too
it.
heavy. Yeah, no, if you look at, so this picture shows what the kind of rear of the Hoagie City building looks like, and that's like just to give you an idea, the wall was only the wall was 2 stories tall in the front of the building, but it went all the way up to 4 stories in the back, and it all fell. Like, this was not, it wasn't just limited to the people who were shopping in the Salvation Army store, which was open at the time. It was like, anybody who was out on that street could have gotten hit by something.
Yeah, you could have got no problem.
And if you look at the next image, it really shows like getting hit with a wall of bricks is not a little bit
Not a
of
fun
brick.
time.
Yeah, generally
No.
speaking, getting domed in the
Mm.
head by getting hit right on the noggin by a brick is not good. And when there's many bricks, you're probably gonna die.
Mm. Yeah, each one does like 1 hit point damage, but
Mhm.
you've got like 100 HP.
Yeah.
Actually, like D&D rolls, you've got like 4 HP.
You got like 4 HP. Yeah,
Yeah.
you get hit by the head on. You can get hit on
Like
the head by
level,
like
level
4
1
bricks.
thrift chopper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So all the level 1 thrift shoppers who were here did not really make it. There were 6 people who were 6 people were killed. I think two people were pulled out of the wreckage and like needed serious hospitalization.
One of them
And
had
like I said-
both legs amputated.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Jesus.
Well, and I think one of them was the daughter of a Penn professor, so this became kind of high profile in a bunch of different ways. But yeah, I mean, this is just one of those things where it's like there's so many different individual elements to it that are just so like, either if somebody knew what they were doing, they weren't paying attention, and if they didn't know what they were doing, they weren't paying attention, and
Yeah, the
and-
city, the developer, the demolition contractor, the Salvation Army.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
Right.
and I think this is like, it's very easy to think about buildings as permanent, but they're only permanent until they're not.
They're only
Hmm.
permanent until they're painted brick.
Yeah,
That's
paint-
right. It was going fine until the guy with the pry bar painted one
Mhm.
brick.
Yes. It's unfortunate. But that's what happens when you paint the brick. It falls over.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Yeah, don't do that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think the part about salvaging materials just adds such a tragic piece to it. The part about the architect and the developer both just kind of serving as these outside forces who are breathing down, their workers' necks, basically being like, when is this building coming down? When is this building coming down? I paid you a lot of money for this,
Right.
when
Not that
in reality
much.
it's fucking not that much,
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
and I think that, so in the aftermath of all this stuff, the only people who were charged with anything were Griffin Campbell and Sean Benchop, the two
The guy with the
two
actual pry
contractors.
bar and the contractor. Yeah.
When in reality, every single safety check was missed here, and the worksite conditions were actively unsafe. Partly because of ignorance, but then also because of just profit motive, and the way that shows in just especially Basquiano's actions. He had to pay money. I think the suit probably led to a decline in his life, but it didn't. He was never going to go to jail for this. And there's so many people who should have done something, even though
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Absolutely.
just a huge failure in the chain of command, but it's like it's so common in this city. Like, you have just these construction projects that are almost completely unmonitored.
Right.
You know,
And we
let
had that
alone
rash
regulated.
of demolitions even after this where people were demolishing buildings like in Fishtown and just knocking over houses and people were injured. And I don't think killed, but I know that happened at least a couple times in Fishtown.
A year after, well, we'll get to this a bit later, but I worked for the city when this happened. I worked for Philadelphia Housing Authority like the year after this happened, and there were, you know, my job was to do surveys of like properties that PHA owned for potential sale or rehabilitation. And there was more than a couple times when, you know, you just show up to a site, right, and you'd see a brand new house right next to where your house should have been, but your house was a vacant lot, and it turned out that, you know, they had just accidentally knocked over a house, and because it was vacant, they didn't tell anyone. That was fairly common.
Incredible.
Yeah, like if nobody's looking, is it really a construction accident?
Right.
If a row house falls down in North Philly and no one's around to see it, is it a violation?
If we don't laugh, we'll cry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Here's a picture from me on site the day of the collapse. It was chaos and pandemonium. No one knew how bad it was yet.
They never
I
do.
mean, the Salvation Army looks okay. Like the Waffle House bit, that's still standing.
Yeah, the Waffle House bit was still there, but this was you know, I walked over here on my lunch break. I was like, let's go see the chaos and pandemonium, and then I was like, oh my god, this is a big situation here. Yeah,
it was pretty bad.
The other thing is, I was like 20, so I was like, let me post this to social media. Yeah.
Which back in the day was fucking your live journal or whatever.
Exactly.
It was Facebook, probably.
It was actually
MySpace.
It was Facebook.
God.
One thing you'll notice is the chimney that was in dispute. That's still standing.
Well, I mean, that's one way of resolving your demolition dispute.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, speaking of social media, stop requesting to follow me on Instagram.
We seem to have
an Instagram.
Yeah, I have an Instagram.
Yeah.
You can follow me on Instagram.
I think we have
that's fine. I don't have an Instagram.
Ben Shapiro type character down here.
Yeah, I was looking at that guy.
Yeah.
Very defined hairline.
Yes. So yeah, that's it's the first time we did. Well, there's your problem about a disaster that one of your hosts was on the scene for.
Yeah, that's your field citizen journalism.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't even know you're doing it, but
this is true.
10 years later, you get a podcast out of it.
Exactly.
Whoa.
Like in this case, here in Fishtown, they were demolishing one building with the excavator, and they wound up taking down two buildings.
Collateral damage is fine,
which is very common. It's still like a really common thing. No one's figured out how to demolish an attached building, and it's embarrassing.
They weren't meant to.
It's in the name.
To do it.
Yeah,
you should just not demolish attached buildings. Certainly not with an excavator.
Hand tool only.
Hand tool only is like a big thing, right? And one of the things that like resulted from this disaster was that, you know, there's a lot more like specification of like these attached buildings. You only use hand tools,
which, as we can see here, is being followed to the letter scrupulously.
The other thing that happened was that licenses and inspections became licenses plus inspections.
Oh, Baz Luhrmann's licenses plus inspections.
Yeah.
Yes, they rebranded.
I think they hired a couple more officers, but that was it. And maybe did some reorganizational things, but there's a whole list of like recommendations based on a city investigation after this that goes into like all of the things that went wrong, and it doesn't really seem like anything's all that different from kind of a day-to-day on the ground perspective.
Oh, so it could happen again and worse.
Yeah, probably. I mean, you know, one of the things we're really good at in America is commissioning studies for how to improve things. but like we don't actually do the things to improve those.
It's equally important to ignore those studies in favor of our own opinions.
This is true.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, look at like, I don't know, the Historic Preservation Task Force or like the Washington Avenue surveys or like any of
Oh,
that crap. Yeah.
I love it. It's
And then,
it's great.
You know, that particular parcel, well, the former site of the Salvation Army is now this memorial. The rest of it is a surface parking lot.
The truest memorial.
Yeah, the big nice parking garage with the terracotta facade that stayed for a little bit longer, but that did get demolished.
Mm-hmm.
That was a nice looking building.
Yeah.
But there is
Mhm.
theoretically going to be a building that will be built here, which appears to be based on the idea of taking a large building and stacking it on top of two smaller buildings.
It looks like one of those like Minecraft animals.
It's
Yeah.
another one of those
Yeah.
like Jenga block towers.
I hate it.
I don't
It's
like
terrible.
it either. But you know,
Pretty convenient to have this building collapse down the block from a fire station, though, when you think about it.
well, he wanted to get the fire station, which he's not going to get now.
No.
Although you can see in these massing diagrams, you're like, well, eventually we're going to get the fire station and build this building.
They're not getting the fire station.
It's fine. Just build it over and just incorporate, absorb the
overbuilt.
fire station.
Absorb the fire station. Yeah. You know what?
New
We'll take over the Mutter Museum too. We'll
Yes,
take over the
please.
Trader Joe's.
No more will we have to stand in line while we shop because we live in a diseased place.
No, the Trader Joe's will inexplicably get smaller and worse.
I like the Trader Joe's. I just don't go there because I'd rather kill myself than stand in that line.
I don't understand how you can like it and yet want to kill yourself before going there.
I'm a man of because I like the food.
That's me
Roz.
in London. It's a perfectly normal way to feel about a place.
Humans are complex, jackass.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
All right.
We contain multitudes.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Except
What
for
do-
you, because really you're better than everyone.
what did we
That just
learn?
means more multitudes.
Or fewer. Like contains like one multitude.
Mm.
Instead of multitudes, you contain like 6
You
guys.
just contain
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the single dude. Dude's rock.
Ha.
All right.
Oh.
Safety third.
No, we have to do the reflection.
Shake
We have to
hands
do the
with
reflection on
We
the
have to do the
episode.
reflection.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it. What did we learn?
What did we learn?
Probably nothing. Same shit as always.
Hand tools only. That goes for the porno theater and for the demolition site.
Good point. Yeah, you should not bring any sort of assistive device in with you on the porno theater.
That's right. That's
Um,
right.
Stop bringing your automated dildos.
Yeah, stop
Mhm.
bringing No.
The circuits are at capacity.
no Hitachi wands. They should have like one of those like metal detectors.
Like kill switches for Hitachi ones.
Actually, if you throw like a TSA
Block.
body scanner, but like in sort of a non-judgmental way.
All right, get to the reflection.
We have a science-based system on this podcast for fucking smarm, cultural insensitivity, unprovoked violence, and misogyny. It's a very high smarm disaster on account of the developer.
I would give like Smarm. I don't know that this guy had that much. I mean, I guess he had Smarm in the sense that like he died instead of facing punishment. So actually, yeah, I give him a 7 on the Smarm. All right,
Jesus.
yeah.
Pretty culturally insensitive all round. Definitely a lot of unprovoked violence.
Unprovoked violence is probably a 7. Culturally insensitive, I'm not sure. I think he was just trying to promote. He was trying to promote Philadelphia's gay community, right? But he
That's
was
true.
also like doing it for cynical reasons. So I'm not, so he could. So
Basically, sort of morally equivalent to the Raytheon Pride float.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense, right? So yeah, cultural insensitivity. I would go. Give me a 4 on that. Maybe
I
a
was thinking of
3.
4.
Yeah. What was the next one?
All right, safety
Misogyny.
third. Safety third.
Safety third.
Yeah.
Safety third.
Don't
Safety
refill
third.
porno theaters. That's why.
Safety third. Hello, Liam, Roz, and Alice.
I
And to the possible guest, fuck you. I don't know you.
Oh. Okay.
My story comes from a vocational school in Finland,
that famous Finnish politeness.
Yes.
Oh boy.
where I was finishing off my carpentry artisan studies. After the school I started and had to close down for lack of students, and this one was closest to it. In woodworking spaces, there are large vacuums built into the building. They suck the wood dust away from machines and dump it into a large bin contained in its own large closet.
Again, need that in the porno theater.
Yes, the load sucker.
Machine.
That's right.
You have a large centralized vacuum system. It sucks everyone off.
It's sanitary. What are you complaining about?
Oh yeah, we send it straight to the sperm bank. Actually, it's fine.
It's hooked up to a big truck. It's fine.
Yeah, big like you know, like one of those septic system trucks. Yeah.
I do.
And it just says loads on the side.
We ain't hauling water.
Dicks sucked, pools filled, not same truck. The vacuum has an emergency shutdown that when it detects smoke in the pipe, it shuts down immediately and shuts off the power in the machinery hall, so all the machines stop as well.
Uh-huh.
The first thing you learn when you start at carpentry vocational school is how the emergency fire shutdown works and what to do when it's activated, and of course the places for fire extinguishers and how to handle them, right? Okay. Small fires or just smoking dust, especially in the older machines, happen once or twice a year. And usually put
sort of emotionally overcome there.
Yes, exactly.
So to speak.
He was overcome by small fires or smoking dust.
Yes. Small fires or just smoking dust, especially in the older machines, happen once or twice a year and usually put themselves out. And the vacuum shutdown was really effective, so no accidents happened. Until
great. That's that Finnish engine. Oh.
Until one Tuesday.
Oh boy.
That Finnish engineering is just sort of like sitting there stoically while the entire system explodes. Like,
yeah, the Finnish fire alarm. You break the glass in case of a fire, and there's just a knife in there. It doesn't help with the fire, but now you have a knife.
It's a knife and a shot of vodka.
And a cigarette.
Yeah, and a cigarette.
Yeah, you're still going to die, but you're a lot more relaxed about it.
Now, I myself was not in school that day. I was sleeping off my hangover for drinking myself in my underwear after a long week of school.
Are we sure this person is Finnish?
That's a Scandinavian thing. That's being
drinking your underpants is
that's being
I was
pants drunk.
joking. I was like, yeah, this is a sort of
Hurry
this is up there. Don't cry.
I
Fuck
want to
you.
get drunk.
Yeah.
You can get drunk now.
No, I have to go downstairs.
One of the first year students whose identity we never learned was cutting a larger piece of wood with an older, fairly large table saw with a sliding table.
Seen here.
Yeah, this might be maybe an $8 16-foot joist. Now, this is almost identical to the one in the picture I added. They accidentally slightly bended the piece of wood during cutting, so it started to heat up the saw, and the wood dust under the table caught fire. This resulted in the building's vacuum to shut itself down and killed the power to the whole machinery hall, which was what it was supposed to do. A student freaked out after seeing the smoke rising under the table and thought to themselves, I don't want to burn down the classroom. I need to get this fire away from here.
I'll just put it over there with the other
With
fire.
the other fire, yes. So they did the most logical thing. They reactivated the power to the hall from the power panel and then the vacuum from a different panel labeled Emergency Fire Shutdown. The vacuum then sucked the embers safely away from the classroom. 2 seconds later,
safely into the big bin full of wood shavings.
Yes.
2 seconds later, the bin where the vacuum dumps the wood dust exploded, creating a blast wave, throwing the closet doors and the large doors leading outside and the ones leading to the machinery hall almost off their hinges. Luckily, the bin was not even half full at that time, and no one was anywhere near the explosion, so nobody got hurt.
Improbable.
Improbable, yes. No, it's Finland. Like, somehow no one is injured despite a horrible thing occurring.
Massive disaster.
Finland is like not PvP enabled. It's fine.
It's basically true. That's how they won the Winter War.
Except for the one sniper they had, yeah.
Yeah.
The next day, I came to school. There weren't even burn marks, and the sawdust was cleaned away. But the vacuum was busted, and we had to use 2 much smaller portable vacuums between 20 students and 5 different machines that required them. Luckily, half of your working space nearly exploding was good enough reason to get extra time for my thesis piece, and I finished it a year and a half late of that mark at another vocational school after the one in this story got demolished for unrelated reasons. You got to take that gentleman's term, I don't respect it. If you graduated on time, fuck you. So thank you for making my work days much more interesting. And Finland mentioned.
That's true.
Meet at the market square.
Don't know which one, but if we come to Finland, we can like go shooting and shoot bottles and cans off a fence.
Yeah, we can go.
I understand you do that there.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. I'd like to go to Finland and like shoot some guns. It
It is in Helsinki. Let's do it.
Yeah,
All right,
we could eat some reindeer.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'll come to make their life a living hell.
Thanks, June.
Yeah, just in retribution.
Yes. Our next episode is on the Boston molasses disaster. Do we have any commercials before we go?
Oh my
Kill
God.
James Bond, Trash Future, 10,000 Losses,
Yes.
Violence Led by Donkeys.
Oh,
June?
we got
June, if the people want more June, where can they find more June?
Oh, you still have to mail me money at 844 North Broad Street. That's it.
Well, no, actually,
no letter bombs.
Oh, yeah.
we may have a show coming up.
Yeah, Justin and I are working on the building show.
Yeah.
I thought we meant the live show.
No, this is the building show.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We're still trying to find the one AV person in the United States who knows what a bit rate is, so I can be at the live show and not sound fucked up.
Yeah,
Well,
we've
we
got
could
good internet at the space.
We could just force you to come over here.
I don't think you have that power.
Okay.
Do you have a passport yet?
Yeah, no, I have the passport. What I also have is a shitload of anxiety about flying.
All right,
Alice, I was thinking
come
about
here.
this. No,
Come
I was
here.
thinking about this. You should find somebody to, like put you into a suitcase or something.
Yeah,
that's
like,
true.
yeah.
That's true.
I feel
I've
like
been
that
thinking
might
about
work.
this too. Yeah, for sure.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
So the building show theoretically will be what is 2 Saturdays from now?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Oh,
July 1st,
God.
dummy.
Is that July 1st?
That's July 1st. No, that's July 2nd. Fuck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Saturday, July 2nd, Justin and I are going to grill some food and have a call-in show where we take your calls about buildings.
Yes, we're going to talk about
Fun
buildings.
stuff.
We'll have some ringers maybe.
For sure.
Hear some interesting people. We're gonna do a dry run this weekend. but we're not going to tell you about that. But hopefully the building show will work. We have no idea how we're going to do it, but we're going to give it a shot.
Better. It's going to work better than a normal building. So
yeah.
Go.
Good night,
And
Liam.
remember, always paint your bricks.
No.
Don't do that.
No.
The opposite.
No,
Always-
absolutely not.
always
Good
paint
night.
your
Good
Absolutely
brickwork.
not.
Well, good
I'm-
night.
Expose
No.
and paint your
No.
brickwork.
Good night.
This podcast is canceled.
Good night.